Live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is GRTS News at 2000 hours. And in our top stories this evening, President Adama Barrow enters the second phase of his Meet the People's tour as the entourage begins meetings in the Upper River region. Vice President Dr. Aissata Toure discusses with the German ambassador means of strengthening ties between Banjul and Berlin during a courtesy call at State House. Deputies at the National Assembly approves the extension of a number of bills to be debated during their next session, deferring sittings to a later date. Plus, Westminster Foundation for Democracy launches the COVID-19 response report at the British High Commission in Fajara. In sports, regional football coaches and referees hone their skills during a 5-day training to seek professionalism in administering the game of football. And in other news, Nigeria's militant group Boko Haram claims responsibility for the abduction of 300 school children in the country. These and many more coming ahead in the news. I am Bai Ibrahim Cham. Many thanks for joining us. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, and delegation are into the second phase of Meet the People's tour as the entourage begins meetings in the Upper River region. It has been an engaging period of discussions with major meetings in the North Bank, Central River and now Upper River regions. Our team of reporters have been embedded in the presidential tour party, and joining us to talk on the line about the President's engagements in the Upper River region is GRTS Momodu S. Jallo, who is currently with the tour party in the regional capital of Basse. Good evening, Momodu Jallo. Good evening, Momodu Jallo. Okay, welcome to the news. First of all, the tour party spent much of the previous weeks in the North Bank and Central River regions. What were the main issues discussed during the first leg of the tour?
All right, Bye, Brian Cham, thank you very much for having me on the news, despite the fact I didn't hear your first question very well. But I think you're asking about the President's first leg, so Meet the People's tour in the North Bank, Central River region, and now in the Upper River region.
Exactly.
Yes, as we all know, the President is embarking on a nationwide tour called the Meet the People's tour, which is constitutionally sanctioned for the President to at least twice in a year go around the country and dialogue with the people of the country, the people who elected him into office, who voted for him to be President of the country, to have an interface or discuss with them and hear from the people what are their needs, what are their developmental needs, the challenges they are facing in their communities in terms of development and other basic services. And this has been top on the agenda of the President's Meet the People. So from day one that he crossed over to the North Bank region, all the way to Upper River region, where currently the President is right at this present moment that I'm talking to you, just 2 meters from where I am, is having a major rally in Sotumasare in the Gemara district, where a major rally is currently taking place by Ibrahim.
Okay, now what has been the message of the President regarding his development objectives?
Yeah, in almost all the meetings where the President spoke, he has been outlining his development agenda that he has for this country. And most of his response has also been based on the needs of the people, because wherever he holds a meeting, the natives of that community would come out and tell him or inform him of their challenges, and these include better healthcare services, access to good clothes, electricity supply, access to clean drinking water. So responding to these demands, the President, and of course his delegation, because he's accompanied by some cabinet ministers, permanent secretaries, deputy permanent secretaries, directors, and other experts in the various sectors. So so that they would know exactly what the people of this part of the country want, so that they can work towards addressing these issues. The president has been outlining his development plans, and he has also been speaking about what he has achieved so far in the last 4 years since he came to power, and that he has been emphasizing the need that his government will continue to bring developments to people around the country. This includes healthcare. The president, in most of his meetings, reiterated that his government is committed to boosting the healthcare system, especially in rural Gambia, where the healthcare service is lot of desired, and then the president is assuring the people that the healthcare system, health centers will be built, some of the existing would be upgraded, nurses would be sent to some of the health centers that are without the personnel and, of course, without the equipment. With regards to the electricity, the president has been speaking a lot about the electricity supply in the country. A lot of the places, a lot of the villages that the president visited, he has been told by residents that they need electricity supply. And responding to the electricity supply, the president said that he may not give a time frame to some of these communities, but what he knows is that come 2025, the country's electricity needs will be a thing of the past, because according to the president, by 2025, the whole country would have electricity supply. It depends on whether you want electricity or you don't want, but the whole country will have electricity supply by 2025. And this has been one of the key messages that the president has been saying in most of his meetings he has held since day one of the Meet the People's Tour.
Okay, speaking of the meetings, now the delegation is in the Upper River region. Tell us more about the meetings there today.
Yes, the president began his Meet the People's Tour in the Upper River region this afternoon, where he first held a meeting in Kumbija. Kumbija is in the Basse constituency, that is the Sabi ward, where the president had a discussion with the people of that community. He had a dialogue with them where natives of the selected speakers from that community spoke, and just like in the other meetings, they also raised some of their needs, some of their development challenges, and these include good roads. Among those who spoke at the Kumbija meeting is Mohamed Silla. Mohamed Silla is the son of the late Alhaji Samkun Silla, a renowned businessman. His name is a household name in this country. Mohamed spoke at the meeting, commended President Barrow for the developments he has brought in this country. Especially in the Upper River region, you have the Basse bridges, the Basse roads projects. These are an $80 million project that is transforming this part of the Upper River region, or this part of the country.
Okay, let's stay in Basse. Finally, that part of the country remains the bedrock of the country's agricultural production, and many of the farmers are preparing to sell their produce. Now, what has been the message from the leadership?
Yes, like you rightly said, this part of the country relies heavily on agriculture, and in some of the communities where the president visited, issues of agriculture came up in the discussions or in the meetings, like in Lower Salum, Upper Salum, Nyanija, and Nyani. These are areas where rice production is a big part of the people's life, especially the women, and they follow the president to help them, especially with their rice fields, which are affected by salt intrusion, which is making rice production very, very difficult for them, and also roads that will help them access their rice fields. And the president, in one of the meetings, said an $85 million project would soon be launched in the Central River region to boost rice production. Coming back to the harvesting season, the president has also been talking about the groundnut season. As we all know, the groundnut season is on. Farmers are selling their groundnut. There was some controversy at the start where farmers were not satisfied with the price of groundnuts, and then this led to some discussions. But the government were able to increase the price, the price of selling the groundnuts, and the president has been speaking about this. So as the Minister of Agriculture, Ami Fabure, who is also on the tour, has also been speaking about this. And of course, some agricultural projects that the Minister of Agriculture is trying to roll out in this part of the country. Some of the women has been asking about gardens, and the President and the Agriculture Minister have promised some of these communities that they will provide them with gardens and other farming equipment to help them boost agricultural production in this country. Just a moment ago, before I come on air, one of the speakers at the Soto Masare meeting, where we are right now, one of the women commended the government for the fertilizer they have given to farmers at the start of the rainy season, which was given on a subsidies, which she said has greatly helped agricultural production in the past rainy season, and he urged the government to continue doing that, and I hope the government of the Gambia will continue to give farmers seeds and fertilizers as mentioned or as promised by both the Agriculture Minister and of course the President of the Republic. Another important
Thank you very much for your time, Mohamed Jallo. We don't have enough time, unfortunately. I'm very sorry, but thank you very much for that update on what's happening on the Meet the People store. Meanwhile, the German ambassador to the Gambia, Stefan Rocken, on Tuesday paid a courtesy call on the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, at State House. The German diplomat seeks to strengthen the already bilateral relations between Berlin and Banjul. Our senior correspondent, Yero Jallo, has more on the Vice President's engagements.
GRTS shortly after a closed-door meeting with the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, Ambassador Rocken said that discussion centered on a wide range of issues, including the gains registered by the country in the area of democracy in recent years and how to consolidate those gains.
My last visit was here in January. Then we were very lucky to have the first German diplomat to be here in Banjul, but with COVID, a lot of things have become more complicated. Now we are trying again to develop our liaison office to a real good representation. We have two diplomats from Germany now in Banjul, and we hope that this will last the whole next year. And in diplomacy, communication is a basis. With permanent staff here, we can develop our relations in the political, in the economic, and in the cultural field.
According to Ambassador Rocken, that discussion also include issues of human rights, the economy and tourism, as well as means of strengthening the existing bilateral relationship between Banjul and Berlin. For GRTS News, this is Yero Jallo reporting.
And to the legislative now. The National Assembly on Tuesday deferred sittings to a later date. However, lawmakers approved the extension at committee stage a number of bills to be debated during their next session. The member for Serekunda introduced a motion earlier on Monday for the House to rescind the decision they keep on rejecting, the bill promulgating the new constitution for the Gambia. Honorable Halifa Sallah and his colleague member for Banjul North shared their thoughts with GRTS. Here's an excerpt.
Brought a motion for the Speaker to allow me to be able to make a motion without notice because of the urgency, so that before the Parliament is adjourned, the motion will be gone through. And the motion was for the Assembly to rescind the decision it took on the 22nd of September 2020 rejecting the second reading of the bill. If that motion was carried, it means that the National Assembly will now have the opportunity to give the minister a second chance to go through the second reading, or as I made in my recommendation to the Assembly, that the minister may even withdraw the bill and allow the National Assembly members to engage in consultation. And the motion was not allowed by the Speaker. So if the motion was allowed, then at the conclusion of the motion, what I had proposed is for the National Assembly member to rescind their decision. Then we go back to 22nd of September 2020. It's like we are reversing the process back to where we started. This is another missed opportunity for the country, that there was a constitutional process that started, but it was stalled, and this was an opportunity. The motion brought by the member for Serakunda, that was yesterday. He intended to bring a motion, it could not pass through, and today he wanted to come with something different about the constitutional building process. But what I'm saying is that I think having a new constitution is in the interest of every Gambian. So I just don't know why National Assembly members could not have seen this. That for me, I believe they should have supported the process. Let's come and review what was brought here before, and then see. It's just a question of horse trading. We don't want this, we want this, and then we negotiate. At the end of the day, we have a win-win. I think this was an opportunity that definitely was a missed opportunity. It's another stall process that now we're just waiting for tomorrow, what is going to happen tomorrow. The government, the executive tasked the Attorney General, as we were told, to engage in consultation, to reach a consensus. And then as far as we're concerned, we have not been approached as far as that consultation is concerned. So we believe that if there is any consultation, it has to be intensified. But the process is going to take longer. If they are going to introduce a bill, it has to take 3 months, 10 days, and then after that, when are we going to have a referendum? So that's the reason why I said that this was a missed opportunity. This was a golden opportunity that we could have really taken advantage of, but we missed it for various reasons, I understand. But I just wanted to implore, had the opportunity been given, had we been allowed, we would have implored on our colleagues to really, support the process. That let's do something about it. Let's start the process now, considering the constitution that we all desire to usher in a third republic. Otherwise, there cannot be any third republic. It's just a continuation of the second republic, as we are still in.
That was Honorable Halifa Saleh and Honorable Usman Silla there speaking to GRTS. Away from that, the German Agency for International Development has presented welding materials, agro-processing, safety boots, amongst other inputs to the Gambian youth entrepreneurs and skilled workers. The event held at the GCCI in Kololi office is funded by the European Union. Kajata Juwara has more on that story.
Officials of the German Agency for International Development believe that promoting and supporting young and promising entrepreneurs will go a long way in contributing to the development of the country. Speaking at the ceremony, the contract and finance expert said the initiative will help in enhancing the productiveness of the youths.
Big congratulations for those that are here today to benefit, because they've gone through all the stages and have to demonstrate outstanding performance for them to be able to get it. And we hope that the packages will go a long way to serve the purpose for which it's being given out.
The head of Component Business Development, Suwaibu Cham, advised the beneficiaries to make best use of the opportunity accorded to them.
By distributing to 194 youths, we created at least one additional job. But that responsibility of the job creation is on your side. Our responsibility is to train you. Our responsibility is to enhance you, to give you equipment to be able to implement what we've trained you.
Mr. Cham pointed out his organization's objective of promoting the lives and livelihoods of Gambians, especially the youths. One of the beneficiaries, Kanyi Ba Kanyi, said the welding materials will help in advancing his work.
I'm so happy about this package today, because I'm so happy it's going to improve me in my life, my business. Yeah, because I'm doing business, welding. I have some materials, but I'm lack some. So the time I applied this mini grant, they called me, they told me that you get the mini grant. I came here, I see the package. I'm so happy about it. I'm so glad about it.
He therefore thanked German Agency for International Development for such initiative and promise to make best use of the materials. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Khadija Tujuwara.
Westminster Foundation for Democracy has launched the COVID-19 response report at the British High Commission. The report featured findings covering a broad aspect of marginalized groups during National COVID-19 response report. Minister Sanyang witnessed the presentation of the document at the British High Commission and now reports.
The outbreak of coronavirus pandemic has also seen unprecedented challenges, but women and persons with disabilities are the most affected. Learning from the Gambia's response to COVID-19 and its impact on marginalized groups, Westminster Foundation for Democracy, a body dedicated to supporting democracy around the world, looks at how the global pandemic has affected women and persons with disabilities. The initiative is funded by the British High Commission. Stakeholders involved in this work gathered to give a presentation of the report of the consultative session.
Consideration of this national response that WFD conceived of the idea of looking at the nature, the extent to which this national response was implemented, so as to look at how, efficient, effective, and responsive it has been, and particularly looking at certain sectors of our population. In this case, women and persons with disabilities.
The report featured diverse challenges and the discriminations women and persons with disabilities are faced with in the COVID-19 response process.
If you look at the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, undoubtedly it has enjoined states to ensure that in terms of natural disaster or risky moments, persons with disabilities should be given due consideration in order to exonerate them from difficulties.
We need to have structures in place that would assist women and children. We need to. Government needs to listen to us. We have a ministry, things should go through the ministry to get to women. But it doesn't. So what happens to us? We're left behind. I think we should start looking at women. COVID came, but it already met our problems. And what did it do? It strengthened our problems.
According to actors involved, this work will subject a national response to assessment. The work calls for inclusion during unprecedented circumstances.
As a facilitator for the 3 sessions organized for persons with disabilities, women CSOs, and government officials and NAMs, I can say that these sessions provided the different stakeholders an opportunity to reflect on their experiences, successes, challenges during these challenging times.
The work steered in concerted efforts of various institutions and organizations, featuring lessons, successes and challenges. The British High Commissioner to the Gambia, David Belgrove, reminded the gathering to learn from lessons that COVID-19 has ushered in.
We all have made mistakes during this terrible pandemic. We've also got some things right. But the main thing is that we learn the lessons. As somebody said, everybody makes mistakes, but only a fool refuses to learn from them. I was in Liberia during the Ebola outbreak, and I was also in Liberia when this pandemic came along. And, I was disappointed of how many lessons we'd learned during Ebola, which everybody had forgotten. And reports had been made, and people had forgotten many of the important lessons we learned during that time.
According to officials, the report will be submitted to the relevant stakeholders with a view to serving as a significant tool in informing the intervention of policy and decision makers in the future. Aminata Sanyang, GRTS.
Moving on, Ibrikama Area Council has launched its toll-free number 1220 at the end of its annual stakeholders conference. The initiative is meant to ensure effective and efficient communication services at the council regarding inquiries, complaints and requests for general services. We have more in this report.
Mandated to provide for the needs and welfare of inhabitants of the area under its jurisdiction,
The Berkama Area Council's initiative of holding an annual conference is to foster dialogue with its relevant stakeholders with the view to provide strategic policy advice to maximize opportunities to building a responsive and vibrant area council. As part of its development initiatives, the Area Council initiated a toll-free line of 1220, which aims to foster transparency and accountability by giving taxpayers an opportunity to call and launch inquiries as well as complaints. This was launched by the Governor of West Coast Region, Lamin Sane.
Communication is always very important when you come to outreach programs. Once you communicate, maybe on two folds. Either you give out or you receive. And in this communication here, we are trying to ensure that the gap that used to exist between the councils and the people is bridged.
Deputizing for the Director General of PURA, the Director of ICT, Nicholas Jatta, stated that the Council will bear the cost of the toll-free line. However, it will enhance its delivery service in order to serve its inhabitants judiciously.
The general public can communicate, make calls from any mobile number free of charge, and the cost will be borne by the area council. We need, distinguished gentlemen, to make sure that we are responsible, that we use this service judiciously and only for the purpose it is meant for.
Giving an overview of Berkama Area Council, its CEO, Modu Jonga, said the platform will create more ideas consistent with the Area Council's strategic goals, including waste collection, provision of water and electricity extension, administrative efficiency, amongst others.
The outcome of these sessions will be mainstream into our annual programs and activities, thus significant in informing our policy and interventions in the future. Development is multidimensional, and it requires a deliberate effort, individually and collectively, on the part of each and every one of us here today. There is a great potential to make this region more advanced. We wish to assure our stakeholders that there are no limits in our commitment to building a model and a responsive public service provider in the Council.
The forum will focus on 3 thematic areas: enhancing good governance, bridging the information and communication gap, and maximizing revenue generation. Reporting for GRTS News, I'm by Ibrahim Chan. We'll be back with the sports news right after this break. Do stay with us.
In the mood of pranking your friends? Change your voice and spice up your calls with AfriCell Magic Voice Service. You can choose to talk with a cartoon, a woman's or a monster's voice for only $1 per day. To activate the magic voice, call or SMS 188 or simply dial *188#. Have fun and enjoy the laughs.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow. Tired of seeing the message you have insufficient funds in your account? Worry no more. With AfriCell, the cholera credit just got way better.
Now you can continue your conversations with your loved ones. With the new cholera credit, you can now borrow up to $250 credit. Send a blank SMS to 152 to get your cholera credit and activate the service of your choice. For more info, please call 111.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and to some soccer news. Regional football coaches and referees have undergone a 5-day training on the basic techniques of coaching and refereeing. The program, as we hear in this report by Mohamed Lamin Sane, is meant to seek professionalism and in administering the game of football.
These regional football coaches and referees in the Central River region have been receiving training on basic coaching and refereeing techniques. The Gambia Football Federation supported capacity training was facilitated in partnership with the Gambia Coaches and Referees Association through the Regional Football Association.
This relation that you are seeing within yourself, referees and coaches, take it from here that you are not enemies, you are partners in development. We are all stakeholders for the betterment of this noble game, football. Let's take it seriously and make it as profession, as I normally used to say. Today you may think that you are here accidentally, but tomorrow you will enjoy it at the best of your level.
The idea here is to increase the number of trained coaches and referees to enhance technical development and understanding of rules of the game.
This is just the beginning. Don't go there and think you have achieved the highest heights in refereeing. It's a beginning, and you need to humble yourself. When you go back to your districts, when you go back to your regions, be humble and try to practice whatever we teach you. We cannot teach you all. There are things you need to also bring from yourself to upgrade yourself.
This scheme is also part of the FIFA Forward 2.0 program that seeks to improve standards in performance as they move to strengthen the development of the game in rural communities.
If you are a referee, don't get involved in the politics of football. If somebody is having problem with your chairman, that has nothing to do with you. Your job, I told you here, is to referee. We want you to referee. We want you to referee. Don't get involved in the politics. Don't get involved. You are not here for a particular person. You are here for this region.
Regional officials perceive the program as a big step towards sustainable growth of football, especially for these coaches and referees looking to make a breakthrough into the elite category.
The most important thing with regards to this training is immediately when you left here, we expect you people to be professionals, because this is the beginning of your training as a professionals. So we expect you to conduct or to do your work with a professionalism. As we all know, refereeing is one of the most important, pillars in football, and coaches the same.
The techniques and skills learned are vital for beneficiaries to advance further in their technical capacities as referees and football coaches.
Honestly, it will help a lot, because as we are aspiring to join the third division qualifiers, so that is going to add our advantage a lot in terms of training tactics, in terms of man management and game planning and so on and so forth. So it is going to help a lot during the course of our qualifiers. It is going to help us a lot. There is a lot that has been learned during these 5 days, and we try to make the best use of it in our training grounds, our match days, and even off the field. We try to know how to manage our players.
From the Central River region, officials of the Coaches and Referees Associations are hoping to conduct similar training programs in other regions across rural Gambia. Modlamin Sane reporting for GRTS Sports from the Central River region.
We will now go for another short break. When we return, we'll take a look at news beyond our borders. The militant group Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for the abduction of 300 students in the country. Gunmen on motorcycles seized the students after storming an all-boys boarding school in the state of Katsina last Friday. Earlier, the Nigerian government said it has negotiated with the suspect but refused to reveal any more details. In 2016, the Islamist group carried out similar kidnappings. Boko Haram says it is responsible, although there are conflicting reports on the number of children kidnapped. The government says 10 children were kidnapped, while other sources said over 200 boys were abducted. CGT and Sadiq Bindawa reports.
There are conflicting reports about the number of kidnapped school children. Malam Garba Shehu, who is a senior special assistant to President Buhari, in an interview with newsmen has disagreed with the figures. Malam Garba Shehu said only 10 school children were missing during the attack. Meanwhile, according to the report from the governor of Katsina State and the state education authorities who are much closer to the school, said the school has a population of 839 students, and they are yet to account for 333 students. This means the governor told the federal government delegation during their visit to the place of the attack. That means, according to the state government, only 333 students were missing during the attack, and they were yet to be found. And also there were reports, according to one of the boys, who luckily enough happened to escape in the morning, told reporters that night while they were trekking, they were asked to be counted, and there were 520 of them who were with their abductors. According to him, he told reporters. So clearly there are conflicting figures, but whatever the numbers are, there are a large number of students, above 200, still in captivity at the hands of the government that need to be urgently saved and bring them back to their own families.
Now to the escalation of diplomatic spat between Somalia and Kenya. Somalia has announced it has cut ties with the neighboring country. Somalia's Minister of Information accuses Kenya of interfering with and violating Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The development came hours after President Uhuru Kenyatta held talks with Somaliland President in Kenya. Mogadishu says it will withdraw all its diplomats from Kenya and has ordered Kenya's diplomats to leave the country within 7 days. On November 29th, Somalia sent envoy to Kenya for consultation, accusing Nairobi of interference with Mogadishu's electoral process. Moving on, the world is still in the worst as the coronavirus pandemic claims more lives. It's the situation that was unexpected. However, mankind has long been digging and getting into a hole that will be hard to get off. Let's take a closer look at the grim realities of climate change in this report.
How dare you! People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction. How dare you!
It hurts.
Global warming, climate change and conservation. Words that are more often said than acted upon by governments and leaders of the world. The truth is, climate change has been brought about by the greed that favors few but affects us all, and not just humans, the entire planet. If wild animals and plants had an enemy, it would probably be us humans. We need only look at the ways in which we've ravaged the earth to understand why. Here's some facts to help put this into perspective. Over the last century, the planet has warmed at a rate of 1 degree Celsius a year. Hard to notice as we go about our day-to-day lives, but over the past 5 years, temperatures have risen at record levels. The whole situation is linked to 3 human activities: the burning of fossil fuels, intensive farming, especially for meat and crop production, and deforestation. Here in Africa, extreme weather patterns are already wreaking havoc in many nations. In 2019 and much of 2020, parts of East and West Africa were hit by floods, leaving a trail of death and destruction. The region is also recovering from 2 devastating cyclones, which resulted in deaths and the displacement of thousands. The cyclones also destroyed crop production, leaving aid agencies to respond to multiple humanitarian crises.
In Beira you go, the scars of Cyclone Idai are visible. However, authorities and aid workers believe that they have the cholera outbreak under control.
A desert locust invasion that started in the Horn of Africa has added to the region's woes. Crops that were planted by smallholder farmers have been destroyed by the pests. Meanwhile, weather experts have been predicting a drought on the heels of these floods. It seems when it rains, it pours in Africa. Even sunny spells are no longer normal. They're often searingly hot and accompanied by food and water shortages. This is climate change at play. And it's not just Africa. Asia, the Americas, and Europe have all found themselves at the deep end of climate change. Cyclones, heat waves, fires, and heavy rains are all becoming increasingly common. According to German infographics firm Statista, countries like China, Bangladesh, Pakistan and India are among the world's most polluted. However, countries like Finland, Norway, Sweden and Estonia are those considered least polluted. Here in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia and Egypt are among those whose pollution levels are most worrying. Although there have been efforts to contain the situation, lack of cooperation is seen as the biggest impediment. Some conservationists see climate conferences as little more than talk shops, all heat but no fire. The United States pulled out of the 2016 Paris Agreement, which was aimed at fostering a global response to the threat of climate change. Remember, the US is home to only 4.4% of the global population, yet it is one of the world's biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, the main cause of global warming. But with the recent presidential election outcome in the United States, things could change. Joe Biden, who won the polls, has promised to review Trump's decision to pull out of the Paris Agreement.
We're here to raise our voices. We know that climate change has already started and it's killing us.
While grandstanding marks this debate, coral reefs are disappearing and glaciers are melting, leading to rising sea levels. Despite Africa contributing the least to the world's greenhouse gas emissions, the continent is feeling the heat. Food production is being compromised as populations continue to expand. Forests are being cleared to create habitats, which feeds into an already complicated situation. This is conflict. For a long time, the Sahel region was a bedrock of symbiotic coexistence between herders and farmers. Farmers would allow their nomadic brothers and sisters to graze their livestock on their land and fertilize it for the next growing season. But years of unfavorable weather patterns led to cycles of poor harvests. With dwindling food production, a conflict ensued. This is what has been exploited by Al-Qaeda and ISIL to create a potent security threat. This has already claimed a regime in Mali and has influenced election outcomes in countries like Nigeria and Guinea-Bissau. We could list more climate change-related cases and incidents. However, this boils down to individuals and governments. Climate change poses a serious threat to the fundamental rights for all. It affects our access to food, to health, and compromises our quality of life for individuals and communities. It is thus our individual, national, and international responsibility to care for nature, for us, and future generations. The late Nobel laureate Professor Wangari Maathai once said, "Mother Nature is very generous, but also very unforgiving." The reality is, if you destroy nature, nature could destroy you. If we are not careful enough and responsible, this could be practical in our lifetime. It would appear it has already started happening.
Well, before we end this newscast, a quick look at our top stories. President Adama Barrow has entered the second phase of his Meet the People's tour as the entourage begins meetings in the Upper River region. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure have been discussing with the German ambassador means of strengthening ties between Banjul and Berlin during a courtesy call at State House. Deputies at the National Assembly has approved the extension of a number of bills to be debated during their next session, deferring sittings to a later date. Plus, the Westminster Foundation for Democracy has launched the COVID-19 response report at the British High Commission in Fajara. In sports, regional football coaches and referees have been honing their skills during a 5-day training to seek professionalism in administering the game of football. And in other news, Nigeria's militant group Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for the abduction of 300 school children in the country. Well, that was all we had for you in this edition of the newscast. Keep watching GRTS and enjoy the rest of our programs.